Hi guys, Uncle Mike here again. Gonna give you a little update on the Ruger LCP that I've done some modifications to. First time I bought a Sweet Pea trigger from Galloway, and I bought the second generation trigger for the second generation LCP, and I didn't like it. It goes all the way back to the wall like the first generation triggers did before it would fire, and then at such a steep angle your finger would slide off the trigger and up against the trigger guard and slide all the way up the trigger guard, which becomes very uncomfortable after a day of shooting. Let me show you what we got here. I've done a little bit more modifications too since I've put the trigger in, and let me show you what I've got here. Swing the camera around here and swing things around so I can see it. Okay. Let me zoom in just a hair. Okay, hopefully we can see this now. This is the first generation trigger in a second generation LCP. First off, make sure the gun's safe. It is safe. The problem that I was having, if you've seen the first video, is the trigger would go all the way to the back here against the wall, and then it would fire and your finger would slide down, slide all the way across the bottom of this thing, all the way up again. Very uncomfortable. And these little pocket pistols, it's not like they're like your standard 45 and 9mm where you can pull the trigger back and then bring it up just to the first click and then pull it back and fire it again. You got to bring them all the way up and all the way back each and every time. So this is what happened. This is the way I bought the gun. When I first bought the gun, the trigger would come back and it would go off at about 2/3 back. Watch the trigger here, about right there. Now you can see that's not quite back to the fire or the wall there, and it's not at such a steep angle like the other one was, where my finger slides down and slides all the way across the bottom. This is a great modification what they did to this gun, because sometimes when you're out in the field and you're shooting, you got your gun out of your pocket, you grab your gun, you got your thumb, you bring your trigger finger back. Well, right here it just barely touches, but the gun's gone off. With the other trigger, your finger would come in contact with your thumb, so then you'd have to use just the tip of your finger, or you'd move your thumb down to be able to shoot your gun. Well, I learned to shoot with my thumb pointing at the target, and my finger in there with about half of, using half of the palm of or the pad of my finger to pull the trigger. So when you shoot like that, you can't do it with the other trigger. But anyway, this trigger here, Ross from RTK Tactical is the one who makes this. Galloway sells it for them. I talked to them. They were concerned that I wouldn't be able to, the trigger wouldn't reset. Well, I'll tell you what here. When I was adjusting it, I over-adjusted the trigger, and it wouldn't reset. And it won't let you pull the trigger either, which is a pain in the ass, because you can't get the trigger back to get to the screw to back it back, or to put it back in again so that it would reset. What you have to do is you got to pull the pin, pull your slide off, push your hammer all the way down until it clicks twice. Or, well, it'll be halfway down. It'll be like this here. You got to push it down all the way, and you'll hear it click. When you hear it click, you'll be able to pull your trigger again, allowing you to get to the screw and readjust it back in again. They were concerned that I wouldn't be able to use these screws at all, but you can use the top one up here. So you can take all the play out of your trigger, well, most of it anyway, up here. You can take it out, a lot of that trigger play up here. You want to have a little bit just so that you make sure that your trigger is going to reset. You can't use the screw that's in the bottom back here. It runs down through the center of the trigger, because it's not coming in contact with the back wall anymore. And that's why Ross had built the second trigger, is so that you could take it both front and back. Well, I didn't care about that so much. I was concerned about the angle of my trigger. I wanted it to be the same as when I bought it. And this trigger is. It's a first generation trigger, second generation gun. The gun was built after 2013. The trigger was designed for the guns that were built before. with the dash in the serial number. Mine doesn't have a dash in the serial number. The trigger still fits fine. This is what my original trigger was drilled at this kind of, or it's the same angle as the first generation triggers are drilled. And so it's at the same exact angle as when I bought it. And I talked to Ross, or well, I actually emailed his wife, and they were concerned that this first generation wouldn't reset. It does reset, and it works fine. The other thing that I've done here is I put in stainless steel guide rod pin, also from Galloway Precision. I'm going to tell you a little bit here that they probably don't want me to let you know about, but I'm going to do it anyway. The reason I bought the guide rod is because this one that I've got here was starting to gall really bad. It's got gouge. It looks like somebody put it on a lathe and spun it with a really coarse bit, and it's just chewed up all over, you know. And it's only on one side. The second, or the back side here, is really nice and smooth, like it was when I first bought it. It also is peened over too and hammered, you know, pretty bad on where it was resting in there. It was come back and slam against that and hammering it over. So I bought their stainless steel guide rod. But what happened was I'd already ordered my my trigger, and I also ordered their lightened hammer spring, which is nice. It's fantastic. It takes 1.5 pounds, almost 2 pounds of pull out of your trigger. It used to be about a little over 8 pounds, almost a 9-pound trigger pull on this gun when I bought it. It's a little over 6 pounds now. But so I'd already ordered the spring and the trigger, and that was it. Well, then I decided later on when I pulled the gun apart and looked at this guide rod that I probably want to order a guide rod too. So I went back and I was looking at buying another guide rod. Well, it was going to charge me another $7 in shipping. I thought, well, I'll buy a guide rod from somebody else and see if I can't get it off of Amazon with free shipping. Galloway sells their products on Amazon as well, and they sell for $2 more with free shipping. So a guide rod that was going to cost me, I don't know, $20 and then $7 for shipping cost me $22 from Amazon with free shipping, and it still came from Galloway. So there's a little bit of a money saver for you. If you want, you know, look on Amazon. They might have, you know, they might even have your trigger on there, and you might be able to get your free shipping off of it. But anyway, I got my free shipping, and the other thing that I did was I ordered some springs here from Wolf, and instead of ordering these from Galloway, Galloway does sell them, but they sell them for about $9 for a single set of springs. You can get them from Midway USA. I think they're $17, and they come with all three springs, the 11, 12, and 13-pound springs, so that you can adjust it to whatever load you shoot. I went ahead and threw the 13-pound springs in right off the bat, and I'm going to try those. They also come with your trigger spring, or your not trigger, but your hammer, or not, well, I guess it's your firing pin. There you go. The firing pin spring is a heavier firing pin spring, and what they do is, their concern is, because of the heavier recoil spring, it's slamming this thing back so hard that you could get a runaway with the factory springs. And what I mean by a runaway is your firing pin could be floating in there because this thing's slamming it so hard that it floats that the original spring and it strikes the primer of the next round, and so you get a double tap or you get a runaway, and it'll just empty your clip on you. I'm not going to put the spring in yet, because I did put in the lighter hammer spring here, this rascal right here, and Galloway Precision doesn't recommend doing putting this lighter spring in the second generation gun, because they said when they did the modifications to the gun, it already has a light hammer strike. I don't know that that's true or not, but for now, anyway, I'm going to go ahead and leave the factory spring in it, until I get out to the field and shoot it and find out what's going on. If it does gives me a double tap or a runaway, yeah, you betcha. I'm going to go ahead and stick that other spring in there, and I'm going to start off by the heaviest spring and work my way down until the gun starts to fire again. Anyway, that's the modifications that I've done to the gun here. Let's see, what else did I do to it here? I think that's about it here. Oh, I have to apologize here to Hogue Grips. My first video, I instead of saying it was a Hogue grip, I said Rogue. Sorry about that. They might have some rogues working for them, but it's a Hogue grip, and it's very nice. It adds a lot of palm swell to the grip. It's a lot easier to grip hold of and get a good purchase on your gun here. So I do recommend picking one up if you've got an LCP. It helps out your gun considerably. The other thing too is these Garrison clip extensions here add quite a bit. This adds, I believe, 1.5 inches to your clip over the factory clips. You know, I mean, the factory clip I think was only 1/2 inch. This added 1.5 inches, and it's fits in there, makes the gun quite a bit, longer in the handle part, but it still fits in my pocket fine. I use a little, let's see here, Blackhawk size 3 pocket holster. The gun fits in here, still fits in my pocket. This part here fits one side of your pocket, and it's shoved over to the other side. So if you go ahead and grab a hold of your grip right here, it cocks the gun out and pulls it out of your pocket without a problem. Let's get these live rounds out of this thing here. Make sure that's not. But anyway, I just wanted to make sure that any of you guys that were looking at buying a Sweet Pea trigger from Galloway or from Ross from RTK Precision, that you know about the first generation trigger, because it's, in my opinion, it's the trigger that belongs with the second generation gun. They did make a second generation trigger, but it doesn't fit the gun properly, in my opinion. It just comes back way too far. The second generation trigger is what came in your gun to begin with. I mean, the first generation trigger here comes in your second generation gun to begin with, and it started off here, fires at 2/3 the way back. The gun is now still the same as what you bought it, but you got a lot nicer trigger. It's a lot wider. It doesn't flex. It's adjustable on the upper one here for, take up this direction. You can't use the one in the back for take up, but your gun inside here, if you've ever looked inside your trigger, the part that you got a rod that runs back and forth in here operates your hammer back here, but the trigger has actually got a place in here that the pin is reset in, and it slides back and forth, and you can only go back so far or this way so far, and it won't allow you to go back any further. The trigger fires just about at the back side of that anyway, so you're only going to get just a hair movement past when it goes off. That's not a big problem. These guns, you got to pull them all the way back and go all the way forward anyway to allow them to shoot, so it's not a problem. You're not going to notice it. Anyway, hope you like the gun. That's some of the modifications. And yes, first generation trigger does fit in the second generation gun with absolutely no problem. Like I said, if you adjust this and you adjust it too far out and it won't allow you to pull your trigger, take it apart, take your slide off, push that down. It'll allow you to pull your trigger again so you can get up here and readjust it. Anyway, hope you guys like that. Talk to you guys later.